Councilor Snell, will you give the blessing, sir?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for this beautiful, warm day. And Lord Jesus, be with us as we go through our committee meetings today. Bless the staff, bless everyone here. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Shall we call the roll?
Jack Huskey Jr.
Here.
David Walkenstick.
Here.
Buell English.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Joe Bird.
Honey.
Julia Coates. Here. Jody Fishingham. Here. Meredith Riley. Here. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Sean Garvin. Frankie Hargis.
Present.
Tana Floyd Jordan.
Present.
Lee Keener. Dick Wade.
Here.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
David Thornton.
Present.
Eric Howell.
Mahoney.
And Bill McClung.
All right, entertain a motion to approve the May 31st regular session minutes.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Keener, second by Councilor Vega. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motions are approved. Approval of the May 31st, 2012 redistrict subcommittee minutes. Entertain a motion to approve those. Motion by Councilor Hargis, second. Do we have a second? Second by Councilor Walkenstick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Minutes stand approved. Moving to reports. Mr. Marshall.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me today. Just real quick, besides what I put in the report, we will start next month putting in the security report as well, our in-house security on violations, vehicle assist, incident reports we track for your benefit. So, are there any questions?
Any questions of Marshall Bugles? All right, Marshall, thank you, sir. All right, Office of Attorney General. The Attorney General himself.
Sorry I have been unable to attend the last couple of committee meetings. It's always a pleasure to get back to my old stomping ground. The Attorney General's office, our report is in the package. There's been a couple of other matters that I would want to add to that. First, I'm not going to steal business, but the Rama decision that was rendered by the Supreme Court on a 5-4 decision came down. It was one of the few victories in the Indian country that the Supreme Court has had in the last few years, and we feel fortunate. Sonosky Chambers, Lloyd Miller did an outstanding job in working through that lawsuit, and I'll let Vicki report on it later, but it is going to result in a major windfall for the Cherokee Nation, and I believe that is something that we need to be very proud of, and obviously I know that you will spend that money wisely. The other major litigation fronts, as I know you all know of, with the United Kituah Band reached an agreement with the state of Oklahoma to pay a certain percentage of their back fees, and will have a limited amount of time to get a decision to put land in the trust for the 2 acres on which the casino, the UKB casino now stands. The application has been in front of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We have objected to that application, and we've done, and I've sent you a memorandum of what we've done so far on both the 2 acres and the 76 acres. And in that memorandum, and I'll state to you in public meeting that we stand ready to appeal any adverse decision should one come down in the same manner that we appealed the 76-acre decision. What it means for the agreement with the state of Oklahoma is that if the United Kituah Band gets an agreement to have the land placed in trust by July 30th, from that point they would have 1 year to actually get the land into trust. That is, and again, we will go through the process to comply with the Cherokee Nation law and federal law, and to make sure that we within the jurisdiction of the land within our territory. The other major litigation front is the Freedman. There have been some movements on that. We are filing our brief for the appeal on the District of Columbia case. That should it should have already been filed, but the United States government asked for an extension as to the filing time. And we agreed. So therefore, it should be within the next 2 weeks that we will file our appellate brief. And I'm working with our DC counsel in putting the final touches on that. When it is filed, obviously we will disseminate it to the tribal council. As to the Northern District case, status conference was due actually approximately 10 days ago. The United States wanted an extension on the status conference. So therefore, that status conference is going to be in about 10 days from now. When there are any additional filings from the United States, we will let you know about that. There has been one development, an additional development in that case is that the plaintiffs from the Van case have asked to join the Northern District case. We did not object to that. We feel that we want to get everybody in one courtroom at one time and resolve this issue. As I said in my confirmation, as fast as possible. We need to get this. We need to get before a court on the merits of this case, and it's a positive development that the plaintiffs in the Van case are going to be in this because it just brings everybody to the table. So with that, that is my report. Any questions that the council has?
Questions of the Attorney General? All right. Oh, Mr. Engel?
Oh, no, you ran out of time.
Mine's off.
Oh, that gavel almost dropped. Well, as a matter of fact, the next topic is codification. So if, with the pleasure of the chair, I will go directly into codification. We have done a great amount of work, and if we could take one and pass that down. In codification, we have, here are, as you're familiar with, our 2 volumes. We're going to have 5 volumes now, okay? We have an estimate from, what we have done is have every act up until December 31st, 2011, in each section and proofread and ready to go. We have sent this to West, okay? This is estimates of what West will do to put everything together and begin printing for the volume. It sounds like a lot of money, and we're obviously not asking to take any action, but we're going to at some point probably next month, come to the executive finance and find where we could, what money we could appropriate to get this done, under whose budget it would come in. But just be mindful, folks, that we spend $75,000 on cell phones a month out here. This is not going to be, this is a wise investment for the Cherokee Nation. We're all the way up to now the last step. And so please consider the request. We will be coming with a formal proposal at next month's executive finance. But a lot of hard work was done. Christina in my office has been the point person. The first meeting that I had as Attorney General, I said, we will get codification done. Okay, and she has worked. Her and Gwen Terrapin has worked tirelessly on getting it to this point, and so therefore we will. We're almost there, folks. We to my daylight. Okay, so we will come next month. Cherokee wants some money. Okay. Need to the daylight. Where's that all mine? And with that, I will answer any questions concerning codification.
Any questions for the Attorney General? Mr. Keener?
Thank you, Chair. We do applaud you. This has been a long time coming, and I know the judicial branch applaud you.
Yes, they.
So, thank you very much for all your efforts on this, and we'll work on this more.
And I cannot leave this topic without, thank Christina, I thank Gwen. The ramrod to this whole thing, codification, Ms. Meredith Fraley. She's the one who has seen this through, so she's the one who deserves the applause on this.
This pushed you.
I know, I just got the scars on my back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor, Madam Speaker, do you have a question?
Do we have an estimate, Todd, on what the coffee parts will cost us eventually?
Christina, do we have a,
When I talked to them, they said it really depended upon, the mass that we would have for that first, the batches of pop parts. It depends on how many are included in that. The cost is going to be a fraction of the cost that this is. I mean, really nominal. It will not be that expensive, particularly. It depends. Some years, we're going to pass a lot this first part because we ended our, what we sent them is for December of 2011. So the first pop part is going to probably be pretty large with some of the stuff that's coming through, but, it's really not going to be that expensive.
and the one thing about that, we did our volumes, and we had a few years of parts, but we dropped that. Whoever's the chief, whoever's the attorney general, whoever's the speaker in the future, let's make sure we keep this going, because that's, we basically had to start from scratch. But if we submit, those pocket parts in a timely fashion on a yearly basis, she's right. It's going to, it's going to be a nominal, than waiting another 20 years and then reinventing the wheel.
Is West the only company we're looking at right now, or are there other companies?
No, we're just looking at West, and the reason being is that they were familiar with the format. They did it the last time. I will tell you, West is not Federal certified, but it's in the quote we got back from West was not astronomical. I mean, if it was going to be several $100,000, yeah, we would explore other avenues. But they had the template set up. So my recommendation is to go with West if we can find the money available.
Will this put it up on Westlaw?
Yes.
And is there an estimate for just a disc versus a book?
The quote that you have there is just for the work to be done and put into an electronic format. That is the quote for just an electronic
Top
format,
part.
the 97,000.
And then the bottom
The
part?
bottom is for the publication part, depending on how many volumes you buy.
Now, is there, so the top part would include this if we didn't want to make a hard copy or?
They probably would not send us a disc necessarily. They may send us, one disc or whatever, but they're just going to give us the electronic copy for us to do what we wish with it. We could make copies of the disc, we could put it on the website. They will allow us to publish it in electronic format so you can word search it. But the biggest part of this is the indexing to put it into volumes for us.
And that's the part they're claiming a copyright on?
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
And when we come with an official proposal at the Executive Finance, we will have representatives from West here to answer any questions.
Councilor Darvin, did you have a question?
Not pertaining to this, but something else, that's all right.
Okay.
Todd usually knows a little bit about everything, and I want to ask him about our Cherokee fire dancers in Colorado Springs.
Yes.
Can you tell us how many are there and what the danger is for them?
Well, I cannot tell you how many there are there, and maybe someone else could. I do know that we are participating in it. It is a disastrous fire that has scorched hundreds of thousands of acres in homes and lives, cost homes and lives. I will make sure that someone gives a report as to our full involvement in it. But those brave men are doing doing the Lord's work, trying to save property and homes and lives.
It's my understanding it's sweeping down through Colorado Springs
Yeah.
at this time.
It's a terrible tragedy. My prayers should go out to them.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. Up next, Election Commission. Any representatives from the Election Commission?
Only thing we have.
Could you come forward, sir? And if you could, just identify yourself, so we'll get you in the minutes.
I'm Bill Horton, Chairman of the Election Commission. The only thing we've got to report on is our Administrative Procedures Act, and it's under the advisement of our attorney at this time to look at, see where we move from there.
Any questions for the commissioner? Councilor Graham Watts?
Thank you. Did the attorney give you any kind of time frame?
We'll probably have an answer probably by our next meeting, which will be the second Tuesday of the month.
Okay. All right. Thank
Should
you.
have.
Okay.
Yes, sir. All right. Ms. Webster with the Tax Commission.
Afternoon. I believe you have my report, and I will try to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Webster. All right. Self-governance, I believe we have the Secretary of State here to report.
Good afternoon. Vicky's away on travel, attending the Self-Governance Advisory Committee meeting this week. Hope you all have our report. There's a couple of items that I want to point out to you. We attended a roads consultation last week in Oklahoma City, and I'm sure you all have heard in resources on about question 10. It's a battle that's been going on for years between the reservation and land-based tribes and the tribes set up as we are in Oklahoma, California, or Alaska. The reservation-based tribes don't believe we have any roads that need to be fixed using our money, and as we know that we do, and this battle has been going on back and forth. BIA has ended up with an interpretation of a section of the regs called, it's question 10, and that's the name that's been given to this change. They're changing the definition on how we calculate our cost to construct on certain roads that are technically applicable for federal funds. As we know, federal funds don't get out to our roads in our rural counties. That's been the basis for the allocations in the past. It boils down to question 10, and the regs calls for the state to be able to provide a certification to us on each one of these routes that states that federal funds are not available to be allocated to these routes, and therefore in the current regs allows us to use cost to construct for the entire cost to construct. If they succeed in changing the way they calculate this, a major portion of our roads will be reduced by as much as 80% of the cost to construct for that portion of the farm. So it could mean a significant decrease in roads funding for all tribes in Oklahoma, tribes in Alaska, and tribes in California. One of the angles of attack that we're looking into, we're working with the Attorney General and Lloyd Miller, is the fact that we believe that this is a change in the regs, and change when they do a significant change in the regs, they're required to go through a negotiated rulemaking to change the regs and to do it in a controlled manner to ensure that there's no major impact. So that's one avenue that we might be able to attack. Other than, and also rallying the tribes in Oklahoma and the tribes in Alaska and the tribes in California together to fight and do lobbying together. And anything else we can think of to attack it.
Mr. Secretary, are members of our congressional delegation or that of California's or Alaska, are they weighing in on this at all?
I don't know. I can't answer that, but that's one of the things that we will be finding out in the very near future.
Very good.
We're going to go on. We want to do a full court press here, do as much as we can to fight this. It is a significant threat to our funding.
I see. Councilman Byrd, did you have a question?
Mr. Secretary, did we address this at the Five Tribes
Yes, we
council
did.
meeting?
Resolution was passed. I'm getting a copy of that. It was one very unusual thing that occurred at this consultation in Oklahoma City was that a representative from the State Department of Transportation was there and read aloud into the record and presented to the BIA a letter from the governor strongly against this effort. There was a room packed with half of the people there were county commissioners. We have resolutions from, I believe, 73 of the 77 counties in hand against this. So this is one of those really unusual times where most of the counties of the state government, and the tribes are all on the same exact page.
Do you think we could also get support of our Eastern Band Brothers because they are a reservation tribe? Have we tested the waters there?
Haven't tested the waters.
Might be something we want to look into.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Anything further for the Secretary, Councilor Cotton-Watts?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Secretary Head. There was an article that came out in the Tulsa World, and we needed clarification. But it says that there's possible joint ventures that were discussed with the city of Tulsa for vacant land in North Tulsa to build homes for Cherokee Nation members and to create construction jobs. It's now $2,800 per child into the system, and it goes into details, but we don't have any information on it. And we were hoping you could clarify for us.
I don't have a clue what you're talking about. I'm not aware of that. But if you'd provide me the information,
Yeah,
I'd be
so the
glad
Tulsa
to
World
look
reports
into
that
it.
Chief Baker's made some commitment to the city of Tulsa and North Tulsa, and since in our district, we'd like to know more. So.
I'd be glad to look into
Very
it for
good,
you
thank
and report back.
Very good, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Secretary, you had some other items.
Just one brief comment on that Attorney General gave you a report on the contract support decision that was recently made. We are working with the Health Department as soon as Vicki gets back. She's going to be working on beginning a draft claim for our claims for the DOI side. We've had meetings already with the Health Department finance crew to begin putting together our numbers for our claims for the health side of it. And we'll keep you all informed as we move along. The claims process, I'm not sure how long it's going to take. There'll be a meeting. Mr. Miller informed me that there'll be a meeting in July, possibly as early as July, to possibly discuss the process of how the claims process is going to work out. But I just say that to say we'll keep you informed as we move through this process.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Councilor Cotton-Watts.
Yeah, it's pertaining to this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, because we've already received some settlements under our own case, I think, will that impact this?
That was, it's my understanding that case was a previous case. This is a totally new case from that time forward.
Okay, so because we've already been paid for prior under the old case.
Not through current year. That was only up to a certain time frame.
Oh, I thought they had remedied that as well, so that going forward.
I don't believe so.
So are we going to have to sue every time? Somebody's going to have to sue just to?
If they keep withholding funding, I'd recommend that based on our current record, that we might ought to keep doing that.
Have we FOIA'd to see how much this is costing the federal government and all of us to do these cases, to see what, it seems like it's spending a lot of money with lawyers none of us need to spend with.
It is.
Could that be part of your analysis?
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Only other thing I might have is just it seemed like you all may have had questions on the TAMS title project, and I'd be willing to explain that project if you wish, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, if you could do that briefly.
You all may have heard something that we've started a project in Realty called the TAMS title project. That's a project that was started actually in the region all the way across the country 2.5 years ago to have all the title plants in the country bring the ownership up to date in preparation for the settlement of the Cobell case. In the regional office, at that time I was over there, we kept raising the issue with headquarters that 3 of our compact tribes in the state, the Cherokees, the Choctaws, and the Creeks, were operating title plants under self-governance and had never been provided the support and funding to have our titles brought up to date so that we could be current like the rest of the titles in the United States. I was able to finally, last year, get approximately $2.5 million per tribe funding in headquarters for the 3 tribes for this project. And as you all know, because you passed part of that, put part of that money into the budget for this year to begin that process. And what that process is based on the way our lands were set up, based on the 1947 Act, our records or the land ownership for our restricted owners are maintained in our county courthouses, just like some of your houses and mine. And what we have to do to ascertain what current title is that we have to go to every county courthouse. We have to, number one, we have to go through our records from allotment and determine all of the lands that were allotted. And we've got a process where we know a lot of the lands that were removed from restrictive status already. We remove those from our list. We end up with a list of tracts of lands that are possibly still in restrictive status by county. Then we have to go to each county courthouse and investigate and pull documents of ownership changes from allotment all the way to current time on every one of those tracts of land. And then we bring we bring back certified documents, and then we sit down and painstakingly go through those documents and do what's called a chain of title. It's almost like doing really intense finance work. And when we end up with the current ownership, then we have to check to see whether those individuals are still restricted. And based on the 47 Act, if your blood quantum drops below 50%, your land ownership would go out of restrictive status. So then we have to check that. Then we have to deliver those documents to Muskogee where they're entered into the TAMS title system and the documents and ownership scanned. And then we have to go through the process of maintaining that ownership. This is a very the way we're going about getting these documents from the county courthouses is that they have contracted with firms in each county to do this for us, abstract firms. And it seems to be working well. We've reorganized the project, we've speeded it up as much as possible. But the goal is, the estimate is it's probably going to take us up to 2 years. Very hard and intensive work to get this done. And that's the TAMS title project. It's the worst nightmare of a project you've ever seen. We did, at the regional office, we did this project. We did it for the Chickasaws and the Seminole tribes because we still had that responsibility, and it took 2 years, dedicated intensive work, people working 7 days a week, working overtime, working holidays, and it's a nightmare project, but we got to get it done so that our owners can possibly participate in the Cobell settlement, number one, and number two, so that we will possibly be able to participate in buying some of that ownership through the land purchase portion of that fund and keeping that land in Indian country should those owners want to sell. Are there any questions?
Mr. Secretary, are you going to have to increase the budget for realty this next fiscal year to accomplish this, or are
Well, we got $2.5 million. I believe that you've allocated $1 million for this first year. We still have $1.5 million. We hope that will be sufficient to accomplish it, but it may be that we may have to, if the project goes a little bit any further.
One question, Mr. Secretary. Were we eligible for any funds from the Cobell case? I know individuals were, the tribe.
Not to my knowledge, I don't believe so, but I'm not an expert in Cobell.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Madam Speaker?
Did you say you were doing the work inside, or was it going to be contracted out? Or
Pardon?
did you say you were going to do the work inside the realty part?
The process of getting the documents from the courthouse is being done by local abstract companies under contract.
So you're going to each county?
We have to go to each county. And when they miss a document, when they get back here and go through and they find a missing document, they gotta go back to the county just for one document. It's the worst nightmare of a project you've ever seen. If you can imagine building an abstract like you have on your home for every restricted tract, that's, in a sense, that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Gaming Commission.
So, Rachel. Lost me, no? I believe my report made it into your packets this month, and I'll be glad to entertain any questions you may have on it. But also would like to give you just a quick update on some of the projects that are going to be coming at us pretty fast and furious in a couple of weeks. We've got the Ramona and Catoosa projects that are coming together very quickly. In a couple of weeks, we should be starting some activities at facilities to get surveillance and machines introduced into those environments, and hopefully, if we keep with the projected timeline, be looking at mid to late August for the projects to complete and open up to the public. So it's a very aggressive schedule. It's contingent upon a number of moving parts, if you will, but we have been working with our counterparts at CNE to get the logistics in place, and hopefully the plan that we have in place now will get us to a very soon conclusion on both of those projects. The Fort Gibson project is still a little bit further out, looking at around the October-November timeframe, but still working with operations there to address any issues that may arise. So with that, I'll have any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Hummingbird? All right. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. All right, next we have report from the Youth Council.
Good God. My name is Danielle Colt, and I am on the Youth Council. Right now I'd like to introduce to you Brian Barlow. He's a fellow Youth Council member with me, and he just wanted to update you on a few things that changed in the report that was submitted to you guys.
Number one, we will be sending 2 representatives to both Unity and the Tri-Council meeting. Okay, never mind, we're not sending anyone to the Tri-Council meeting. On July 5th to the 10th is when Unity is. And a project we've been working on with the tech guys is we're implementing a online voting system, because the Youth Council moved back to a election over selection for the tribal councilors. And so we'll be moving to a voting system online. So we're planning to launch that on July 6th.
And one thing that the Youth Council is very interested in right now is the redistricting, because the election policy that we currently put into place is with the 5 districts. And so when redistricting changes, it's going to have a big effect on how we do implement the online election. So that's something that the Youth Council is really monitoring right now to see how that affects us. And that's all we have for you guys if you have any questions.
Council Walking Stick.
Why are you guys going to Unity?
We are going to go to Unity, but we're taking 2 elected representatives at the Youth Council.
Originally, what happens is in February, Unity has, it's called a mid-year, and a male and female representative from each Youth Council goes, and it's only designated for them. The summer conference is geared towards the whole Youth Council going. Originally, the Youth Council did plan to attend, and we were just recently informed that there was only funding for the 2 voting members to go. So that's probably more of a Patrick question than a Danielle question.
Anything else for the Youth Council? All right. Well, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
the report. Thank you. All right. Registrar Citizenship Data Update. Is there anything to update, Mr. Justice?
No, I just have a few numbers to give you on the number of updates in the registration database. Address changes have been 451 for the last month, and 60 deceased notices. That's about it.
Thank you, sir. Now move into old business. Councilor Fishing Hawk, your sponsor of this resolution for Ms. Carson. All right, do we have a second? Second by Councilor Hargis. So limited questions. Councilor Kamlotz?
Is she here because I have questions for
I
her?
believe she is. And will she come forward?
First, it is my great pleasure to bring forth the nomination of Lena Hembry Carson, for the nomination for the position on the Environmental Protection Commission. She is Cherokee, she's a resident of Adair County, and she is my sister. So with that, I will.
Very good.
Before he steps down, I have a question then.
Very
I'm
good.
sorry.
Yes, Councilor. Yeah,
How is that not a conflict of interest?
I have no authority and control over the Environmental Protection Commission. I am not making this appointment. Principal Chief Bill John Baker is.
Okay.
I'm not voting to confirm this employment. You are.
So your office will never have cause to address any of their actions or
Well,
inactions?
we send the Attorney General's office sends an attorney to the Environmental Protection Commission. The conflict exists if I was the one who was nominated. It's an independent commission, part of the executive branch, into which the principal chief is making the appointment. So prior to this question was asked prior to we vetted it. There is no conflict of interest.
Because this is the first I've heard of it, so I apologize, that changes things drastically.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Carson, could you come forward? All right, and before we get into the councilor's questions, do you have anything to say?
I'm honored to be considered for the Environmental Protection Commission. It's always been very forefront of my mind. I'm a landowner in southern Adair County, downstream from the landfill, and I have experienced all kinds of things that have happened to the Illinois River, like Tin Killer, the creeks around our house, and so yes, it's always been a very important issue with me.
Well, thank you for being here. And Councilor Kamlotz, did you have some questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And I didn't know I'm kind of took off guard, so I apologize on the other issue, but I still have several questions for you. So on your resume, there wasn't anything on the surface that I'm used to technical folks doing these positions. So could you speak more about your prior experiences and skill sets and qualifications around environmental issues or policies?
I have none. I have, my experience is just firsthand. I live it. Like I said, I've grown up, went to Lake Tin Killer, Illinois River when you could used to see the fish at the bottom, going to the creek and catching crawdads, which you can't catch anymore because of contaminants in the creeks. I'm a landowner, and I'm not going to stand up here and tell you I know a lot about environmental law, but I have a PhD in kinesiology, and I research a lot, and I would dedicate my time to read legislature and research legislature to bring myself up to speed.
Is your land in trust?
No.
Okay. And obviously, one of my questions was about why you wanted to be on, and you've really answered that.
It's
so
always been,
I appreciate
I
that.
mean, back from when I was in high school and college, I've always been a member of the Sierra Club and Nature's Conservatory and things like that. It's always been important to me.
Okay, so you have or have not had an opportunity to read our environmental law?
No, I have not.
Okay. And do you have any thing you'd like to share with us with respect to the Illinois River Scenic Rivers Total Phosphorus Standard and how you feel about the chicken industry or anything else?
I don't really have a stance because I haven't been introduced to that or have any knowledge of that. Like I said, I would dedicate my time to bring myself up to speed because I do have a very strong desire to have our river and lakes and creeks to clean up for our future generations, and you know, so that's why I would like to serve.
Let me ask it a different way. If it came down between the chicken industry and Cherokee Nation waters, which side would you lean on?
Oh, the Cherokee Nation waters.
Okay.
Water is much more important to me than chickens.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. And I did not know the relationship to your brother. So.
Asked her if I could control her.
Well, I have a brother, so I already know that part. However, there's a lot of already number of conflict of interest that I'm concerned about, and I don't want to add you to the fray.
Oh, sure.
And I haven't had the honor and pleasure of meeting you before, and I have a lot of respect for your brother, but I just, it is what it is, and I think that's too close a relationship. But I appreciate you being here. You'll probably get past, I'm sure, but thank you.
I understand.
Thank you, Counselor. Councilman Byrd?
Yeah, I just want to commend you for even taking on this appointment from the chief. Looking at your background here, you know, you've got extensive background in education and willing to gather the data that's appropriate. And I just have a question for the counselor. Is it a prerequisite to have land in trust to fill one of these positions?
Not to my knowledge, Counselor.
I didn't know that. But anyway, just thank you and
I'm honored. Consider.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Garvin?
How are you related to Joe and Carson?
My husband, Drew Carson, from Stillwell, who's also a tribe member, that's his first cousin.
Drew is still
Joe
with
Lynn,
us?
yeah, it's actually his uncle. Lynn Carson, his son, is his first cousin.
Joe Lynn's a good friend of mine, so I just trying to get that right. Thank you,
Good
Mr.
marriage.
Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Fulbright?
Yes, thank you. This is the first time I've ever met you, but I like what you had to say. A lot of times I think good common horse sense about what you said about the water and the clarity of it. And our family, 22 different families joined together, and we own a piece of property down below the landfill also. It's called Bradley Ford. And we're very interested in that, and I'm proud to think that you would support this. I don't think you need big long list of college degrees to deal with this and understand it. Just from a common person's perspective, we know what's happening to the water, so I think you'll make a good member.
Oh, thank you. I saw a documentary many years ago that said that the first thing you can tell when water starts to get polluted and contaminated is that you lose your crawdad and frog population. And if you go down to Bradley Ford and Low Water Bridge, there's not many crawdads anymore. I know. So that's, we used to go down all the time and catch crawdads. Put them right there on the creek, and you can't do that anymore.
that's nice. Yeah, she was in bait. That's the only thing I can
Any further questions for Ms. Carson? Ms. Carson, thank you. I think you've got a wonderful professional and academic background, and I think all sorts of diverse backgrounds will serve us well in that commission, so I appreciate your willingness to serve. So, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Let's do a roll call.
Frankie Curtis,
Yes.
Chet Hoskey Jr.,
Yes.
Hannah Ford Jordan,
Yes.
Lee Keener,
No.
Dick Lay,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton, David
Yes.
Walkenstick, Kara Callan Watts,
No.
Bill England,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
Yes.
Joe Byrd,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
No.
Meredith Fraley. Yes. Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin.
Yes.
Thirteen yes and 3 no.
Congratulations. Wonderful council. Next, we move on to a resolution confirming the nomination of Linda O'Leary. And Madam Speaker, would you take that?
Yes, Ms. O'Leary is here to answer questions, and I will put this in the form of a motion.
Okay, we have a motion by the Speaker, second by Councilor Fishinghawk. And Ms. O'Leary, would you come forward? Do you have some words to share with us?
Yes. Again, as the most recent nominee just said, I am very honored to be selected for the nomination to become the registrar of the Great Cherokee Nation. I believe that it is one of the very utmost important positions, not the most, but it's very important. to the services not only of our Cherokee people for the membership, but for the determination of degrees of blood regarding the CDIB. So I'm very proud to be here.
Well, thank you, Ms. O'Leary. Mr. Thornton, you had a question?
Yes, I've got one question.
Yes.
Linda, you realize that you have other businesses and this is a full-time job?
Absolutely. Wouldn't have committed if I had thought otherwise.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's all
Thank
I
you.
want to know.
Yes.
I want to see you spend your time here.
That's great.
Okay.
That's great.
Thank you.
That's a true commitment.
Yes.
I just have one question. With applications being submitted daily for citizenship,
Yes.
and the waiting period being so long,
I
like 6
understand.
months to a year,
Yes.
what do you consider the best approach to eliminate that long waiting period? Because that's one of the questions I have and complaints I have from many constituents.
As we have had through the years. When I was served on the council, we had those same complaints. And looking, of course, naturally, one of the responsibilities is taking a look at the budget, seeing what we can do regarding more employees there. And of course, we'll have to take a look at that. I'm not privy to the most recent information. But I would like to add to the registration department. I know we have dedicated workers. I know they've worked hard. I know that their time is not loafing. I know they're working. But I think that anything that we can do to promote their expertise and ability and getting some help in there and training them to speed up the process and the length of the CDIB card and the tribal membership is of the utmost importance, and especially to our Cherokee people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councilor Angler? No.
Yes.
Speak about CDIB.
Yes. Under the authority that we have a contract with the Bureau, and we oversee that. It's a subcontract, actually, with the Bureau, and that we take up on that responsibility in order to certify those and to check that lineage and the degree. And then in turn, we issue those. But it is a subcontract with the Bureau. It is. They called it a subcontract to me. That's the way the terminology was to me, actually, yes.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Councilor Walker, you're recognized with my apologies for skipping you.
All right, thank you. Linda, what's your take on, as far as the education agencies trying to get membership for their students for federal programs? Is there any priority there for us? Whenever schools submit applications for grant purposes for the schools, is there any priority or a rush to put on those applications?
I'm not privy to that right now. I have not studied that. I do not know. I will inquire about that if nominated.
Well, being in education, other tribes are really helpful in working with the schools because a lot of times we got to get those cards back pretty quick, like
Yes,
rush, so
yes,
we can get them,
yes.
get money into the schools for federal grants and so
Right.
forth.
And I would consider that, in my own opinion, a personal first priority.
Okay, all right, thanks. Thank you.
Councilman Lake?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm going to support this lady's nomination. I watched her while she was on the council, and one thing I always liked about her was she took up for her people, and she did it with passion. And we're going to put her in a place where she's going to do it again, and I appreciate it.
I thank you so much for those words.
Councilman Keener?
Thank you for being here today,
Thank you.
and let us ask you questions. I'm curious about this nomination because I think we do have some qualified people in the department already, and we always say as a council, as a body, that we would like to see people that were deserving promoted from within. And so I'm just curious about this nomination, and I thank you for your call that you gave me too, but I won't be able to support you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilor Calwans?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Linda, for being here today. I have several questions for you. So in terms of management and supervisory experience, because I think there's a large number, around 100 or so employees, can you describe to me like what kind of management experience?
The
you have?
employees in that division, actually, probably if I'm nominated and fill that position, I think there's probably going to be around 14. Maximum with the registration department is probably going to be around 20. If within the budget, we can work that out to get more employees there to assist us. And the supervisory capacity that I had was one reason I was down here on the council and I supervised the staff here and the CPA and to some degree the attorney for our tribal. And I also have supervised within my own business. Let's go back to the early part of the 70s. I supervised foster homes. I supervised group homes. I supervised and went and investigated nursing homes. In my capacity, I supervised within the juvenile division, moving on, I supervised certain entities and was required by the courts to present reports, stats, and things of that nature, medical information, and just a wide variety within my own business. And I'm rushing through this, stop me if you want me to explain or expound. Within my own business, I supervise staff, and we're responsible for several $1 million of monies that come through us. I'm responsible for several $1 million. I'm on the line for it. And so we do those reports and things to Oklahoma City. And so I do have a variety of supervision responsibilities and duties that I've carried out in the 42 years of working with not only state agencies, but in the private sector also.
Have you done a personnel evaluation from scratch for an employee?
Yes.
So your plans for the existing staff would be to keep all the existing staff and then add staff?
We're hopeful. We're hopeful for that. Of course, I can't make any promises today. We have to look at the budget. We have to look and see what we have there. There's certain changes being made there, and we'll take a look at those.
Okay. There is always an ongoing need to audit our tribal registration records. So how would you approach an audit to make sure that people that are legitimately Cherokee by blood are the ones with tribal citizenship?
Councilwoman Watts, that's something that I'd have to take a look at. We have the contract with the Bureau, and that's something that we would have to see where those lie. I don't know specifically if you have any problems with anything. I do have an open door policy, and I'd be very glad to visit with you about any concerns that you might have at any point in time.
What about the database? I mean, we always have ongoing issues with the database, both with the way it's structured, I think, and then the integrity of the data in the database. So,
well, there again, I think that our staff, from what I know of the staff that's been reported to me, they're very conscientious. The integrity is intact. And so therefore, if we're over there, we're going to all work together to make sure that the integrity continues, that the planning and oversight and the representation of the registrar's office is of the utmost importance and reliability.
So if anyone asked you as a favor or for any exchange of anything, or just asked you, you would only register legitimate tribal citizens?
Well, absolutely. I mean, Councilman Watt, you know, you saw me operate here on the council. You know that the integrity is one of the most important things that I value my reputation on. So absolutely.
One last question. So the BIA records, the way I understand it, are held similar to like Social Security data. So if someone walks down and wants to get into the records or the registrar, say, would they be allowed to, or how does that work?
That's not something that I would anticipate. I have not read all the rules and regulations regarding the registrar's office, but I'm sure that that's something that when those items are confidential, they will certainly be kept confidential.
Thank you for your time today.
Any further questions for Ms. O'Leary? If not, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor of the nomination say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
David Wackenstick,
Yes.
Karen Helen Watts,
No.
Bill England,
No.
Jack Baker.
No.
Joe Byrd,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
No.
Jody Fishingham,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
No.
Frankie Hargis,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Kinda Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Lee Keener,
No.
Dick Light.
Yes.
Eleven yes and 6 no.
Congratulations, Ms. O'Leary. Moves to the full council now.
Thank you, council.
Right. Next order of old business is item number 3, the APA amendments. Councilor Conwatts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that there is a motion on the floor that was tabled that Councilman Keener made concerning adding the Housing Authority Commission or board.
Fine.
And then,
I have copies of that.
and then I put some of my thoughts on paper about the issues that are outstanding because we haven't gotten reports or follow-up. Here. No. And maybe Shelley can help us understand what was on the table when it got tabled.
Okay, we'll make a reference to the minutes when this is being passed out. Councilor Conwatts, if anything in the minutes jumps out at you, please speak up.
Okay, so I accepted it as a friendly amendment for Councilman Keener's to add the housing authority.
We're in
And
dis-
then I believe the AG's office was going to bring forward the procedural concerns about having the housing authority added so we could really properly evaluate before we voted.
All right, so we're in discussion on your motion, to which you've accepted a friendly amendment to add the housing authority as one of the entities within the agency definition. Is that correct?
Yes, I was thinking originally that it was a standalone, but I'd accepted it as a friendly so that we could have a discussion on the entire thing. So that my initial amendment would be to add, go back to the legislation. Is under agency, there should have been some technical stuff about how to make it more transparent, but it was primarily under agency that we would add Cherokee Nation Tribal Employment Rights Office. And then Councilman Keener's was to add the housing authority.
Okay.
And I don't know that anyone disagreed with the transparency requirements. It was more of some of the other items that the lawyers may understand more about concerning things that might conflict because the housing authority was a state agency that might conflict with state law.
Well, I think we fleshed that out a bit last time, and Madam Speaker, refresh my memory, if the councilwoman would yield to you, I believe because the housing authority is a state agency, they operate under pre-existing state statute, which provides transparency. So, Councilwoman Conwatts, I don't know if we have anyone here from the Attorney General's office that will speak to this, can speak to it. I don't see anyone here.
I'm here from the AG's office, but I'm not here to talk about that, so I'll give it to Todd if that's what the council would like me to do and ask.
Okay. So, okay, yes, Councilor Conwatts.
So I think for actual action, it sounds like we're gonna have to table it because there were valid concerns, but I thought we were gonna have a report from the AG's office on actually what that was. But in terms of transparency, part of the agenda item that I've been trying to get responses to is an evaluation of actual compliance with the Administrative Procedures Act. So I know it's lots of pages, so I attempted to put together a summary. And I don't know if there's extras, I think there wasn't enough for the audience. Meredith, would you? Okay, thank you. So this was supposed to be initially implemented by all the existing agencies, which includes the Election Commission, the Environmental Protection Commission, the Gaming Commission, and Tax Commission, 90 days from March 19, 2007. Well, we're in 2012. Just from my personal judgment, which doesn't necessarily count in the terms of the legal context, it appears that the Gaming Commission and the Tax Commission, for the most part, have complied. We got a response from the Environmental Protection Commission, but it's very limited. It doesn't fully comply with the law. I've asked for a response, I've received none, and we've gotten no response from the Election Commission. And if you look at the issues on what the APA, in terms of transparency, which I've outlined in the 20 or so items to kind of compile and summarize this huge document, is a lot of the problems that our voters who were disenfranchised during 2011, especially for the Environmental or the Election Commission, they probably wouldn't have faced those problems had they had the APA been enacted by the Election Commission. And then I struggle with our Environmental Protection Commission not complying with the APA because we are potentially going, well, I know we're going forward and exercising our governance responsibilities in terms of our natural resources, which they're responsible for. And if they do not have these things in place before we get there, we are not doing our job as a government. So I don't know, Mr. Chairman, I'm calling on you for the leadership on how we can make sure that the laws this body's passed are complied with.
Let me make a suggestion, because if we're talking about amending the APA versus ensuring compliance, those are two separate things, related but separate. I would suggest we take whatever action we're going to take on your amendment, but separately we do a discussion item and continue to make sure these agencies that are currently under the APA are telling us to our satisfaction that they're complying. And I have a problem with that, but I do think we should separate that discussion. So we can continue to have a discussion item in future Rules Committee meetings, but insofar as your legislation is concerned, we need to table it, we need to take a vote on it.
Okay, so what I would ask is that, because it's Robert's Rules of Order, I can't table without a discussion. So I would like on the next agenda that there is a compliance request, because we've been down this path. So I'm asking you to help me make sure that we're actually responded to this time.
All right.
Because originally this was a discussion about compliance. And then we're here, so.
Very good. We will have at our next committee meeting a discussion item on compliance with the APA. And it'll probably be something we have to continue in consecutive months.
And if possible, on the agenda, that each agency is listed so it's very clear in their minds and the public's mind who is to be held accountable for making sure that there's compliance.
We will do that. Now,
And I move to table this until next month.
Okay, and one thing I did put the cart before the horse, I think. We didn't actually have a motion to get us into discussion unless we used the motion from last time. But since we're just going to table this to the next month.
If I need to move to take it off the table in order to table it till next month, that's my motion.
We'll cut to the chase and take a vote on tabling. We have a motion and a second to that.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, table the next month and we'll get the separate discussion. We're now at old business item number 4, Jobs Growth Act Amendment. Councilor Fisher-Cock.
Yes, this is related to Jobs Growth Act, and all it is adding language to assign seat designation, assign the designations as a term, and I move for approval.
Second, any discussion, Councilor
Point of
Pamela?
information, it is the one that was passed out because we had folks in the book who resigned, right? And so this clarifies everything, everybody's.
I think we have it down over there.
No, there's one new one.
It's one with 2 in the top right-hand corner.
All right. Counselor, it's this one. Okay. All right, everyone.
So
have
just to
copy
make
of
sure
this.
all lines are clear, there are 11 seated board members according to this legislation that was passed out. And that's what we're looking at to vote on.
That's what I'm reading, Counselor.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Yes, Ms. Barker.
Just maybe to clarify Councilor Watson's statement, I don't think that the purpose of this is to vote on who is on the board.
It is to number the seats. So the seats are numbered, but it has nothing really to do with the names. The names are on there as actually as a reference to the council members to know who is currently in that seat. Now, Shelley and I drafted and Shelley helped me get it right. She talked to someone at CMB. We determined, found out that there were some people that were no longer on the board, so the seats' names were changed. But we're not like reconfirming who is on the seat, we're confirming the number of the seat.
Very good. Very good.
Number one
Any,
is this slot, number two is this slot.
any further discussion? All right, this is an act, so we'll take a roll call. Shall we call the roll?
Julia Coates,
Yes.
Jody Fishingham,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Frankie Hargis,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskins Jr.
Yes.
China Gloria Jordan,
Yes.
Lee Keener, Dick Lay,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
David Walkenstick, Kara Callan Watts,
Yes.
Bill England,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
Yes.
Joe Bird.
Yes.
We have 17 yes and 0 no.
Good. All right. Now to item number 5 on old business, Sunshine Act, Councilor Fishingham.
Yes, this is a legislative act. It's defining nepotism and defining acceptable parameters for employment and contracting and amending Title 28, which is our ethics code, adding new sections to the Cherokee Nation Code, and I move for its approval.
A motion is second, and Councilor, you're directing our attention to this copy that's passed out.
Yes,
Is
the
that
one that's
correct?
passed out from you.
We have a motion second. Councilor Fishingham, you still have the floor. Do you have anything in discussion?
What this is it basically clears up some language on our entities. It has, on the second page, it has Cherokee Nation government, and all the entities that are 51% or more owned by Cherokee Nation. The second red line is the same, the third is the same. The next one states no public official or immediate family can contract with us or subcontract. And that is it.
Thank you, Councilor. Any discussion? Councilor Count Watts.
Thank you. I always welcome these changes, but I think we need to be fair, so I make a motion to strike individual employment contracts are exempt from this provision. Because otherwise, I would think it would not be fair, and it would be subject to court considerations.
Council, what court considerations did you have in mind?
So just that last sentence would be struck. Individual employment contracts are exempt from this provision.
No, I meant what court considerations did you have in mind?
I don't know what the measure would be, but a sense of like fairness and equity on how we treat Cherokees and everybody else involved. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And if you look at this, you have at-distance contracts, but then you have individual employees that are involved. I mean, it looks like we're making exemptions for some folks.
Okay, I
I
understand.
mean, if we're gonna clarify this and make sure that it's fair to everybody, then we need to make sure that it's absolutely fair to everyone involved. And if you can't contract, which is even more distance than actual employee, and if you have individual employee contracts, that's even a stronger conflict of interest and relationship.
Did you have a second on her motion?
Yes,
Yeah. So we have a second from Councilor Anglin on Councilor Count Watson's motion. All right, any further discussion on Councilor Count Watson?
Okay, never mind.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I have a question. So how does this language then impact already existing employees and stuff? Because that was another part of it. It wasn't just about contracting and disclosures. It was also about making sure that individual and staff employees, either at the other branches of government, separate branches of government or other businesses, is this going to impact people's like children or parents? So it's first degree. I don't think so.
I don't know who you directed the question to, Councilor, but.
I'm asking, I guess Councilor
Councilor-
Fishing Hawk is the author, needs to, or the sponsor.
It doesn't deal with employment. This does not affect, there is no, this does not deal with employment. This I had written for contracting and subcontracting.
I have another question then.
Yes, Councilor.
So if an individual council person themselves is employed by a subcontractor on a job, that would be legal under this? But somebody couldn't get a contract?
If me or if I, or let's take for instance, the speaker here or her husband cannot contract or subcontract
No, but what if you're
with us or our
hired?
entities.
Say that again, I'm
With
sorry.
us or our entities.
Okay, what about housing? So if you have rental properties and stuff, that would be a subcontractor contract with one of our entities, and that can no longer continue, is that correct?
I will defer to our professional, experienced person on the council, the speaker, dealing with the state agency and the housing authority.
Well, the state agency housing authority is not part of this situation now. It's not 51% owned by Cherokee Nation.
I think it needs to include that, or 100% funded by the Cherokee Nation, because that money then comes through the tribe.
You take care, may I respond to that? If this body directs money to the housing authority, they will do it through an MOA. And that MOA would contain the rules and provisions that they're asked to go by. They have their own money, and as a state agency can use their own money any way they desire to do so, or however their board directs the employees to do that. You can't control or own the state agency. The tribe just can't.
Councilor Campbell?
Okay, so we're back on my motion to strike. That has a second?
Yes, we're on the
Okay.
motion.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on the motion to strike. Any further discussion on the councilor's motion? Councilor Coates?
I would just say that if there's a governing principle here that we're trying to reach, that I too am confused why subcontracting, which in effect is Cherokee Nation money coming into a family, maybe it's not the counselor directly, but it's family members of the counselor is prohibited here. But individual employment contracts, which would result in the same thing of Cherokee Nation money coming into a family member's budget, would be exempt from it. To me, I'm confused. I'm not seeing the consistency of a principle. I mean, I think fundamentally I might agree with the principle, but I just would like it to be applied consistently, whatever it is. So.
Councilor Watkins, too.
I just don't want the perception that elected officials are getting contracts because we have our powers and duties in the legislative branch. I know a lot of tribes and people in these positions get perceived that way, and we need to go away from that perception and really focus on of everyone being equal and not having any favorites or whatever as far as the bidding process goes. So I'm in favor for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on Councilor Calvin Watson's motion? Councilor Fraley?
I want to ask our attorney here, your analysis of that. That sentence is bothering me, and I'd just like to hear your analysis of it.
The individual employment contracts are fixed in this position.
Since you authored it, I'm assuming that there's good reasoning for putting that in there.
Actually, I have to say that the Attorney General added that sentence, and he was not here. I had him review this, which is a lot of things that I do, just to make sure that because he has a lot of knowledge, sometimes he'll have institutional knowledge about past bill or legislative act that I don't know about, and so a lot of times I'll run things by him and make sure that I'm taking in the right directions. Of course, my job is to draft legislation as you request, not to get in the middle of this, because all 17 of you are my clients, and so, which is quite a thing to have, but he did put the phrase in there. I might defer to Councilwoman Fishing.
May I speak?
important. When this, when this came up, and I talked to our lawyer about it, my understanding is the concern of a number of the council were that we had people on the council that had family, immediate family, that were getting contracts, some no-bid contracts, and performing work and receiving Cherokee Nation dollars. My direction to the attorney, after discussing this with Council Lady Fishing Hawk, was don't touch the employment part. All we're concerned with is stopping the contracting, and that there be no question that nobody on the council will be having any one of an immediate family contracting with Cherokee Nation or any of its entities. And this is written as a result. So this is not intended to in any way deal with employment issues. It is only intended to stop, if it exists, any contracting by the immediate family of any council person. And that's the way this is written.
Councilor Coates?
Well, we're kind of around the edges of something here where we're not naming names and so forth, but I think we understand that this is directed at Councilor Cowan Watt's husband, who is subcontracting 4 levels down sometimes on Cherokee Nation jobs, and that the Attorney General has previously issued an opinion that there were 4 degrees of separation basically on this, and so that this was not a conflict and was not a problem. If this body thinks that's a problem, then this body has the right to think that's a problem and to certainly pass something like this. But I also think that we also know that there are other members of this body who have relatives who are on individual employment contracts here as well. And as I said earlier, and Councilor Cowan Watts said the same thing, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I am having a lot of difficulty with the subcontractor 4 levels down is not allowed. Someone who is directly contracted as an individual is fine. Once again, I don't see the consistency here. So let's do it for everybody, or let's not do it for anybody. Would be my feeling about the thing. I think that this is pretty blatant. I think it opens us up for, some of us at least, for a lot of allegations of playing favorites, not holding people to a consistent standard here. So I'm for a consistent standard, and I don't really care which way it is or the other, because I don't think being a subcontractor 4 levels down is such a problem, and the Attorney General apparently didn't think so either in the past. But I do have strenuous objections that some people are going to be exempted from this while others are targeted. So that's where I'm at, I guess. Thank you.
Councilor Fishing.
Yeah, I was going to suggest if anybody else wants to change it next month and they're having heartburn with it, put some legislation for it next month that deals with employment. It's just simply this one, no, I didn't have it prepared that way.
Further discussion on Councilor Cowan Watts' motion? All right, we'll take a vote on the councilor's motion. All those in favor?
Point of clarification, let me make sure I understand. We're voting only to remove a line from A on page 3.
The last sentence in A, I believe, is the motion.
Mr. Chairman, may I clarify the intent?
Certainly, Councilor.
So it would be, the last sentence would be struck so that it was consistent that all contracts for relatives within first degree, including like your daughter, your son, your parents, that'd be your only first degree, right, and your spouse, that no one, if some people, a certain segment are not going to get contracts, then no one gets contracts, and that's the intent. And really quick, I got a note that the mics on Councilwoman Fishing Hawk's side and our side are not working correctly, that they're turned down or something. Sorry, thank you.
Madam Speaker.
I would I would just like to say, I would like to see this not changed at all. There was a lot of work put into that one paragraph, including that line. I think it needs to be passed as is, and if they have something they want to bring along the lines of employment, then bring it next month.
Very good. All right. So the motion is to strike the last sentence. Councilor Cotton wants motion to strike the last sentence. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call.
Joe Bird,
No.
Julia Coates,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk,
No.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
No.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Frankie Hargis,
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
No.
Tyler Glory Jordan,
No.
Lee Keener,
Yes.
Dick Blake,
Nope.
Curtis Snell,
Abstain.
David Thornton,
Abstain.
David Walkenstick,
No.
Kara Cowan Watts,
Yes.
Bill Anglin,
Yes.
Jack Baker.
Yes.
Seven yes, 8 no, and 2 abstentions.
Motion fails. Madam Speaker.
Call for the question.
Call for the question on the act as it appears. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call.
Abstention. Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
David Walkenstick,
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts, abstain. Bill Anglin,
No.
Jack Baker,
No.
Joe Bird,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
No.
Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin, Frankie Hargis,
Yes.
This is saying
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
can't contract,
Tyler Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Lee Keener,
No.
but they can.
Dick Blake.
Yes.
10 yes, 6 no, and 1 abstention.
All right, we are now at new business. Item number 1, resolution authorizing Cherokee Nation Marshal Service to donate a vehicle to the Craig County Emergency Management Department. This is my sponsorship, so I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
By Councilor Hargis, second by Councilor Walkenstick. This is an item of surplus equipment that it was not feasible for the Marshal Service to sell, and the Craig County Emergency Management Department will put it to good use as a mobile command vehicle. Any discussion? Councilor King.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to ask you or inquire, about how does one find out about the surplus equipment? I know last time we gave away a backhoe, I think, but now we got an ambulance, so how does one get privy to that beforehand?
I can tell you only how I became privy to this. The head of the department in Craig County heard secondhand that there was a vehicle that was sitting out in a field not being used, and he asked me if Cherokee Nation could donate it. Then I asked the Marshal Service, and they took it up the chain. I think it would be nice if we could maybe compile a list of surplus property so that it's something the council can know about. But the few times that I've been able to find these things, it's been through that sort of process. So that's how it happened this time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Councilman
You and I seem to find out a lot of things secondhand.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sorry, I had to.
That's the way we operate. Councilman Walker.
We need to find a box truck for Zoe Institute. So you guys hear of a box truck, just keep your ears open. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on the resolution? All right, hearing none, this resolution will take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, Councilwoman Fishing Hawk, you have new business item number 2. What are you prepared to do on that with respect to tax exemption for
I would like
veterans?
to table that for 1 month because they're doing some wordsmithing here.
Very good. We have a motion to table. We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Table the next month. New business item number 3, an amendment to the Children's Code. Councilwoman Count Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm unsure if Indian Child Welfare is here to present, because this was brought forward by Linda Woodward. I think that we've had this in front of us, well, it's for some time by email, and it's essentially technical amendments to strengthen the Indian Child Welfare Act and how we implement it and our ability to implement it, giving us broader jurisdiction over our children and families. And I make a motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? This is an act, with this by acclamation, Councilor?
Please.
By acclamation, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right. New business item number 4, redistricting. Councilor Fishing Hawk?
Chair, I make a motion to pass this redistricting map with the accompanying legislation.
All right. We are going to limit discussion on this item to 3 minutes per counselor, 1 minute per counselor on any motions, because I know this is something that certainly will generate some debate, and the hour is already late. We have a motion and a second. Second by Councilman Lay. Any discussion? You have the floor, Councilor Fishing Hawk.
This is a map that we passed out of committee this past month, the company legislation. The company reports in there with it that tells you how we derived these numbers. And nothing else on this agenda.
And Council, there is legislation attached to this.
Yes, and that needs to be attached to the company map. And there's also a PowerPoint behind it that tells us how we derived at these accurate numbers. And I hope everybody's still in favor.
All right, thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Councilor Countess.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Passed out in front of you, and we actually have a revised map that would probably be better suited for the appropriate communities. And thank you. And David Justice is working on getting us copies of that. You should have in front of you a map that provides 15 representative districts. Every seated council person would be able to retain their seat. There wouldn't be any questions about trying to retroactively take away council seats, which is against our Constitution and would lead to the court setting. And now this map that I think David's going to bring and pass out for us would address some concerns up in Washington County and bring all of Washington County into one district and then adjust the population accordingly. Because if we're going to gerrymander for one, we need to gerrymander for all this.
Madam Speaker.
We've got a motion on the floor for a map, and she's bringing up another map.
Is your point of order that the discussion is not germane? All right.
Mr. Chairman, it's absolutely germane. I would be asking to supplement, but I would like the opportunity to speak.
Are you going to make a motion to amend the?
Yes, but I need the other map here that actually shows, because he's been able to address a concern up in Washington County to make sure to bring that all in. But for points of discussion's sake, I would ask that once he brings the other map in, that we substitute it for it, but we will need to strike the following language on this legislation that's been brought forward.
Councilor, are you, just, I see where you're going. It sounds like you want to make a motion to amend the motion to substitute this map and to strike some language in the legislation. If you make that motion, then we can move that direction, and then Mr. Justice can bring in the change map.
If you would please work with me on that, because he's trying to get it forward. So if we can reserve the motion to change the map, on Part E of the legislation that's been presented,
the district court has already found that we cannot arbitrarily move people just because they have a bad address, and definitely cannot eliminate them from the population. So the last sentence in the paragraph on E needs to be struck, because those people will need to be left where they're at. That was in the district court ruling under Judge Fight. And if you need that read into the record, we can read that into the record. Then also under the same motion, F needs to be completely struck because it's unconstitutional. Everyone was duly elected into these representative districts that are here today. So just because somebody doesn't fall into one of the gerrymandered districts doesn't mean you can arbitrarily remove them after the fact when they've been elected by the people to serve in that role.
Counselor, do you have a second to your motion?
I'll second it.
So we have a motion
And
and a second.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, it is case number CB-2009-65, where Judge Fight ruled in conclusions of law on page 3, paragraph 1, the last sentence, further citizens' names may not be arbitrarily stricken from the rolls in this apportionment simply because the mail was returned as undeliverable or as having a bad address.
Counselor, that was a district court decision?
It is written out, and the Supreme Court did not change that or challenge it. And here are the maps that I'd like to, if you'll accept the maps, I'd like to substitute.
I suppose one would say the Supreme Court didn't adopt the extraneous language from Judge Fight's ruling, but that's just one lawyer's opinion. Yeah, your time's up on the motion.
And here's the map to substitute.
All right, your time's up on your motion. Any further discussion on Counselor Cowan-Watt's motion to substitute, which we still need to look at the map? Counselor Coates?
I'll be supporting the substituted map that has been provided by Councilor Cowan-Watts and Mr. Justice. Again, this is just a second instance today, it seems like to me, of something that we're voting on, which is blatantly politicized. The fact is that in districts, what are today Districts 1 and Districts 2, we have a similar situation of Councilor Walkingstick and Councilor Byrd being in proximity to each other, and of Councilor Fishinghawk and Councilor Hargis being in proximity to each other, no further away probably from each other in their districts than Councilor Lay and Councilor Anglin are. And yet, every effort has been made by the proponents of the first map to keep people, to make sure that those districts are separated, sometimes by a very minimal amount of distance. And the same effort, I think, could easily have been made, and that's been demonstrated by the second map, to do the same in the case of Councilor Anglin and Councilor Lay. And so it seems to me that it's a very, very blatant attempt to simply eliminate one councilor without having to go through the process of an election. And again, I just would appeal for fairness in the situation. This is not good politics. This is the reason that people hate politicians, is because of these kinds of gerrymandering efforts that where the majority can just come in and do things like this, take care of their own so clearly, and just jam the other side when it's not necessary. So that's why I'll be supporting the second map. I'm astounded, really. I'm just blown away by the blatant.
Hey, Councilor, I hate to cut you off. I hate to cut you off.
Thank you.
I sincerely do, but we do have a rule on the time, and I did let you go over to complete your thought. Any further discussion on Councilor Cowan-Watts' motion? Councilor Keener.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will also support it for the aforementioned arguments by the council people. And when I'm looking at this, just based on federal guidelines, it would seem that, and I think that's what we're trying to adhere to, and I can see just gerrymandering all over the place on this. Am I happy with this? No. Am I totally happy with the new map? No. But I think there's going to be a lot of voter confusion when the voters go to the polls. We have to have I don't know what you'll have one place to vote, but you might have three districts to vote on in that one voting precinct or polling place. I see a definite reason not to vote for that because of I think might be a loss of money that would be in the council districts. And then the representation, I think Buell has got like 75% of the vote plus, and then for a few people to vote him out, that's to me that goes against the wishes of the voters. And I would agree with Dr. Coates. We want to do the will of the people, not the will of the few. And I don't see really any benefit from this map except for the dictionary. When you look up gerrymandering, there'll be a picture of that map in here. So that's the only advantage I see. So I would vote for this new map.
Thank you, Councilman. Your time has expired. Councilman English?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I too, of course, I think everybody knows where I'm going to be, what map I'm going to be supporting. But this last map that was handed out that David has worked so hard on, it has all the bad addresses in there. So we're not eliminating any Cherokees. We're not saying you're not Cherokee no more, that we're not counting you. We're not moving you to the at-large because they're still out there. And if you put all the bad addresses in the map that the other counselors have presented, the deviation is way out of whack. So that's going to end up in court, you know. I know it was the district court, but it's going to track its way right back through. So, and it's kind of like Councilman Keener, I have to agree with him. My last two elections, I've won by either 72%, 75% the last time, and I hate to sit here and have 8 or 9 council people vote me out of running in my district that I live in. And if the map stays like it is, the council lady does not live there in that district. So that seat is going to go unserved. And I have to think back years ago that I was involved in this when Nick Lay, when he took charge and got us our other council representative up north that we so lacked. Now we are shoving that council person back out. So we're losing a representative up there.
Thank you, Councilman. Your time has expired. Thank you. Any other discussion on Councilman Cal Watts' motion? Councilman Garvin?
Over the last 2 or 3 years, we've had many, many maps, and I like most of them, but the main thing is we're trying to do is 15 districts, and both of these have 15, but look like there's some intent to cause harm to certain ones, and I prefer the second map, and it's fair, and it's honest, and it's not mean-spirited or hard-nosed. It's just something that a person should be willing to do, and I can't imagine anybody being hard-nosed enough to try to cause one council person to lose his job. I understand politics, and I understand people put these things together, and it looks like there's obvious reasons there to get rid of one person in particular, and I don't know why, but I think he's been a good councilman and he deserves to keep his seat, so I definitely will support the second map. It looks good.
Thank you,
Keep us
Council.
out of court, I'm sure.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion on Councilor Cal Watts' motion? Councilman Thornton?
Yeah, I've just got one thing to say about this. I think here a few years back, we went from 9 districts to 5. When we went to those 5 districts, there was 2 of those districts lost 2 seats. Mr. Keener's sitting in one of those seats right now that went over to that district. So if gerrymandering's the problem here, it was gerrymandered years ago, 7 years ago. And I can't help it because someone loses a seat, because they've already lost seats by us going to the 5 district. And there isn't anybody spoke up for them. Everybody was satisfied because they was gaining a seat. And they voted for it. That district voted for it. This is the same old thing. Somebody's losing a seat. So I'm for the map in the book. But this gerrymandering business can go two different ways. It's already been happening, and now you're saying it's happening again. What it may be, I don't know. I know mine's about right, but I know another thing. I know that these people that's coming up with this district scenario on the bad addresses, these bad addresses is a bunch of bull. Because I know there's one heck of a lot more bad addresses in my district than what's been put on here.
Councilman, your time is
And we can't go around and pull those bad addresses out and then throw them back in.
Councilman, any further discussion on the motion?
Thank you.
Councilman.
I know that, just one thing, when I emailed it out and the percentages with the bad addresses puts it extremely out of whack. One of them is as much as 22% over deviation with
Yeah,
bad
way out of
addresses.
whack.
Okay, Madam Speaker.
We're making the assumption that the bad addresses have to be counted where they were last known to be at. And that is simply not the way you have to do it. This legislation would put the bad addresses at large, counted at large as citizens, till they come in and give a new address, a better address to registration. So the people are still counted. The one place we know these people are not is where their mail keeps coming back saying no person lives here. I mean, I've watched this for months now, and they're saying we have 359 bad addresses in Cherokee County, but they've got thousands up in their county that they want counted. Now, folks, that is simply not fair. Same thing happened down in Sequoia County. I think they said you all had 200 and something. We know you have probably 1,000. So you're not getting the benefit of all your bad addresses, but they're getting probably triple the benefit of bad addresses. We have simply defined where the people are not at with a bad address and placed them where we think they have the greatest chance of being, which is at large with this legislation. Mr. Thornton hit it on the head about this gerrymandering business. If gerrymandering was taking place, it took place 4 years ago when Delaware County and Adair County lost representation. And somebody else got that representation, and we're simply fixing it now. It doesn't have anything to do basically with Cherokee County, but our rural neighbors were underrepresented and have continued to be underrepresented.
Madam Speaker,
So I will not support the substitution of her map.
You're out of time unless the councilor yields your time.
I'll yield my time if you want to.
Well,
If you have
I
anything
just
else.
simply would say, on this first vote, she's trying to substitute a map that's other than the map in the book that we have worked months on. And I'm just not in favor of that substitution. She could have done this map months ago when she was gerrymandering then, because that was going to cut out 3 representatives by the way she had her first map drawn. And I'm sorry, folks, I'm pretty passionate about this. I'm not running again, but I'm very passionate about this, that gerrymandering was done 4 years ago. It's not being done now. It was done 4 years ago, and we're simply making it right.
Point of
What's your
order.
point of order, Councilor?
Mr. Hoskins, I would just point out that reapportionment was done 4 years ago, which is different from gerrymandering. Reapportionment is different. There was a movement of population.
Well, if you can sell that, that's great. I've got land you can sell too.
You've cloaked a point of order in debate, but I respect that. Anything further on the motion?
Can we take a motion?
Motion is to substitute the map of the book for Councilor Con Watts' map and make certain changes to the legislative act, which the council lady could recap for us.
So it's to strike let me just make sure, strike the last sentence in E and strike completely section F in the legislation.
So no, we're against that.
No vote is against making that change, and it's against substituting the map. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Roll call.
Joel England,
Yes.
Jack Baker. Joe Byrd,
No.
Juliette Coates,
Yes.
Jody Fishington.
No.
Meredith Fraley.
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright.
No.
Don Garvin.
Yes.
Frankie Hargis.
No.
Chuck Huskin Jr.
No.
Anna Gloria Jordan.
No.
Lee Keener.
Yes.
Dick Lay.
No.
Curtis Snell.
No.
David Thornton.
No.
David Walkingstick.
No.
Karen Callan Watts.
Yes.
Seven yes and 10 no.
Okay, the motion fails. We are on the original motion. Any further discussion on the original motion to pass the map and the legislation as it appears in the book? Councilor Karen Watts.
I feel strongly this map is violating the principles that our courts set out and had already refereed this work before. So it doesn't meet the 10% standard, it doesn't meet the use of bad addresses standard, and it doesn't meet fairness standards that I think were talked about during the court proceedings in putting contiguous communities together and such. I believe one of the communities is not even contiguous, it jumps around in order to get population, so they're not even a seamless movement, physical movement or geography in contiguous. So I just think that we're headed straight to court, and that doesn't do our people any justice. We've obviously provided a map that includes bad addresses appropriately, allows for 15 equal, contiguous, or fairly. I left Cherokee County and Adair County to those representatives and how they had it, and deferred to their judgment for their folks down there. But a map that better serves our people, and in a timely manner, we could get our precincts set and we could stay out of court because it does not violate the principles that were set out last time. And I don't see how we can vote for this today without heading down a place we don't want to be, because last time we ended up, because the courts had to intervene, setting this in October before the election, it was too late to communicate to our constituents the changes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Madam Speaker.
Yes. The Supreme Court ruling last time was reviewed very carefully by the group working on the map that's in the book. Every issue that was brought up by the Supreme Court has been addressed with this map and the accompanying legislation. It does meet the 10% rule because within the legislation, we are putting the bad addresses as at-large citizens. So it meets the 10% rule, it addresses the bad address issue, it meets every part of what the Supreme Court told us to do 4 years ago. I am confident that this will stand up under scrutiny. And she's quoting a district court decision and some findings and facts that the district court made. You look at Supreme Court decisions, not district court rulings. And of course, she probably wouldn't know that because she's not a lawyer. But you look at you look at the Supreme Court and what they said, not what the district court said. And all over this country, folks, if the Supreme Court of Oklahoma makes a decision that the legislative body in Oklahoma does not like, they can change it with a law. If the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. makes a decision that the legislative body in Washington, D.C. does not like, they can change it by law. That is exactly what we're doing here. I think it was a very faulty finding that you had to count bad addresses where they were last known to be, when that is the one place where we know they are not, because that is where their mail keeps coming back saying that person is no longer here. We have a more legitimate argument to make that they are more than likely at-large citizens now than where they used to be, because we know they're not there. And we know at-large citizens can be anywhere in the world besides just the 14 counties. And we have taken care of that with this legislation that accompanies this map. And I would ask for you all to vote that legislation and that map on through the full council.
I would add to that I agree that it's a district court opinion. The language about bad addresses, I think, was extraneous, and that's the reason the Supreme Court wasn't even bothered to make mention of it in its final ruling. because it was extraneous, it was dicta, if you will. But even assuming bad addresses is an issue that the Supreme Court would address, we, if this map passes, will have made a legislative judgment as to what to do, how to classify citizens who have bad addresses for the purposes of redistricting. We hadn't made that express legislative judgment before. The court didn't have guidance from the council as to what to do with bad addresses when the district court ruled on this some years ago. If this act passes, I think the courts will be deferential to our judgment that when you have bad addresses, you know where they don't live, and you don't know where they live. And if you start making judgments as to which part of the interior of the Cherokee Nation they live in, then you are going to skew the districts. So a reasonable judgment, and a judgment that I think ought to be in these minutes and ought to be deferred to by the court, is that we've judged them to be countable for population purposes. They are still Cherokee citizens and don't fall for the lingo that they're not, but they are at-large citizens for the sole purpose of figuring up the population for redistricting. That's the sole purpose of this. That's a legislative judgment that I just believe will withstand scrutiny. Any further discussion on the motion to approve the legislation? This is an act. Roll call.
Big Leg,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
David Walkinston.
Yes.
Karen Callan Watts,
No.
Bill England.
No.
Jack Baker.
No.
Joe Bird,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
No.
Jody Fishinghoff,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
No.
Frankie Hargis,
Yes.
Chuck Huskin Jr.,
Yes.
Anna Gloria Jordan,
Yes.
Lee Keener.
No.
10 yes and 7 no.
New business item number 5 is discussion on possible action on travel council policy, local travel total charges. Councilor Cowan Watts, will you take that?
I'm going to withdraw it, thank you.
Item number 6 is discussion, update on investigation by the administration to alleged ghost employees under the previous administration. I'm going to withdraw this on the basis that it does touch upon employment matters. It is a sensitive issue, although I never contemplated using names in an open hearing. But I'm satisfied there's an investigation going on. I don't think there's much that can be reported, and I consulted with our attorney, I consulted with the Attorney General, and the advice was that it shouldn't be discussed. I'm going to withdraw that item. Item number 7. Yes.
Go first.
I just had a question on that. Is there the Attorney General's office is investigating that?
I'm not sure which office is investigating it, but I believe it's being investigated, and we can get an update offline, but I'm withdrawing it for the purposes of an open discussion right now because it's too preliminary, whatever the investigation is. We can find that out, Councilman. Councilman Cowan Watts, are you introducing number
Yes,
7?
no, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question that when you get the update for us, even if it's offline, or I'd like a definition of a ghost employee. Because I have some folks I'd like to submit if it's what I think it is, so.
Thank you, Councilor. Item number 7, Councilman Lay.
I'd like to table this month.
Table for a month, motion to table. We have a second on that motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Table the next month. Any announcements? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Councilman Byrd, all those in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign.